closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
Hello everyone, my name is Anthony, and welcome back to the Anthony James Show here on Sports Fan Entertainment. It is time to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're a team that just lost the AFC Championship. We're sure talking about them a lot, and oh boy, the Steelers could be screwed so bad in the future. I mean, let's get into it. The Steelers are not in a good situation right now. It's funny because not too long ago we were talking about Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell is potentially the best running back, quarterback, wide receiver combo ever in the NFL. And frankly, we have a good reason to say that. We can talk about how it wasn't that long ago when these three men were in the top two for their statistics in yards. Ben was top two in passing yards. Brown was top two in receiving yards. Bell was top two in rushing yards. It wasn't that long ago when we were talking about this is the best tandem in the NFL. And now we are potentially looking at losing two of them this offseason. Oh boy, the Steelers are screwed. The Steelers are in a lot of trouble right now if they lose any one of them, especially if it's Big Ben, because Big Ben's potentially talking about retirement. And I think if you're talking, oh, Big Ben shouldn't retire, you're selfish. I think that if Big Ben wants to retire, well, he should be allowed to. Anybody should be allowed to. And frankly, Big Ben's had a long career. He's been playing since 2004. If he wants to call it quits after, 12 seasons, this man definitely deserves it. Two Super Bowl wins? What more does he need to play for? Unless he wants more cash, which frankly I wouldn't blame him. He doesn't need to play anymore. If he wants to protect himself and not get injured, I don't blame him. The last two seasons, he did not start all 16 games. More importantly than that, we looked at the 2 seasons before. He finally started 16 games 2 years in a row. And now, we're back in a situation where Big Ben hasn't started 16 games, now 2 seasons in a row. And as he gets older, I can only imagine it gets worse. When you look at the three quarterbacks from that 2004 draft class, because when you talk about Big Ben, you almost always talk about that, he's the only one that's had injury concerns. Since Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning became the starting quarterbacks for their teams, they haven't missed a game. But then we look at Big Ben, and he's been injured a lot. He's not like those two where they've been relatively injury-free throughout most of their professional career. Big Ben has not. I mean, this guy comes back from injuries way too soon. Remember last year when he was a backup, when he was still injured, not supposed to be back, but he came back anyway? I remember that. And you can't keep doing that. Big Ben's got to look out for himself, and he could potentially get injured worse and worse, especially as he gets older. So I think Big Ben probably should retire. Will he? I don't think he will. I think he'll come back for one more season. Looking how close they were to the Super Bowl this year, you have to assume this guy comes back. But let's also keep this in mind. I was actually listening to Fox Sports. I was listening to Colin Cowherd. He had one of my favorite former Vikings, even though he was only there for a little bit, Greg Jennings on. And he was talking about how quick the NFL can change. You can go from a contender to one season, and the next season you can be off the map. Look at the 49ers. But more importantly, let's look at the Colts. Because the last time the Patriots went to the Super Bowl, they beat the Colts in the AFC Championship. Well, what have the Colts done since then? They missed the playoffs 2 years in a row for the first time since before Peyton Manning was on their team. That's the situation the Colts are in. Frankly, I look at the situation the Steelers are in, they very well could be doing the same, and it could be happening as soon as this coming season. Because even if they do keep Big Ben, you're in a tough division. You're in a division with the Ravens and the Bengals, and depending on how these two do in this offseason, they could be right back to contending. Bengals missed the playoffs for the first time after making it the last 5 years, and the Ravens, while they haven't made it for 3 of the past 4 seasons, they've been a consistent contender for the division, minus last year, and more importantly than that, they've won the most recent Super Bowl in this division. So you're talking about two tough opponents. If you take away any of these three men, I think you're talking about potential trouble for this team. And I haven't even addressed Antonio Brown yet. We don't even need to talk about the Facebook Live stuff. from what I understand, after the first Steeler touchdown, he was on the sidelines pouting. The Steelers are worried he doesn't have the fight for football. That's not a good thing to have. More importantly, I'm kind of surprised he's becoming a diva. At least that's what it's being portrayed as. I don't know, I'm not in the locker room. But what it's portrayed as, he's become a diva. You don't want that. You can be as good as you want to be. You can be the best wide receiver of all time. But that doesn't matter. We've seen countless players like Terrell Owens, Randy Moss. They've been on multiple teams despite being some of the best wide receivers of all time. You just can't deal with that all the time. And that's a situation the Steelers could potentially be in. So imagine the Steelers losing Big Ben and Antonio Brown in the offseason. That's worst case scenario. And let's say, for some reason, they don't keep Le'Veon Bell. Oh my gosh, how bad this team will be. I did look before this video, and I was surprised at how well the Steelers defense did this year. I knew they were pretty good, but they were actually close to the top 10, like top 12 throughout most of the important statistics for defense, which actually really surprised me. So at least they have a decent defense, still not good enough to carry this team. This isn't the Broncos we're talking about. But still, the Steelers could be in a world of hurt very soon. And frankly, what have the Steelers done to prepare for life after Ben Roethlisberger? Granted, he's still a young quarterback. I mean, if he were to play as long as he could before he starts to suck, he probably has at least 5 more years in him. So the Steelers don't need to address it, but they still need to address the backup quarterback situation. You had Mike Vick last year. That wasn't good. You still have Landry Jones. He isn't good, so I don't know why you have him. But they've done a horrible job trying to address the backup quarterback situation. I understand it's hard addressing the quarterback situation, but they just haven't tried to bring in somebody that's like, hey, maybe you're better than Landry Jones. They just haven't. They just hope Landry Jones develops, and it hasn't happened yet. So let's be honest. If they lose Big Ben, this team probably has a losing record next year. No, I think it almost definitely has a losing record next year. This team's a solid team, but without Big Ben, it's not good enough to do much. It really is, and this team is probably going to go down a very bad path soon. They could potentially be looking at going 0-4 against the Ravens and the Bengals, and maybe even losing a game to the Browns. You don't want that. The Steelers better be able to convince Big Ben to come back, but if I'm the Steelers, I'm starting to get worried. Quarterback has gone from something that's an afterthought, where backup quarterback was a need, not anymore. Even if Big Ben plays, you have to wonder if his heart's still in it. And frankly, can you blame the guy? He has not been in the best locker room position. He's had a lot of problems with his locker room, and he's publicly stated it. So for Big Ben, it's up to him. If I was in his situation, the only reason I keep playing is because of the paycheck. That's the only reason I'd keep doing it. I already have 2 Super Bowls. What more do I need? Most players try to get 1 Super Bowl, and he already has 2. He can quit whenever he wants. If he really wants to, go ahead, and I wouldn't blame him. But if I'm the Steelers, this is like, you almost have to hit the panic button at this point. Quarterbacks become a big need. Frankly, you can make a strong argument that they draft a quarterback in round 2 or 3. I can't blame the Steelers for doing that. But they need to address the backup quarterback situation, because they've actually done a decent job with their defense. I'm kind of surprised. But man, I think the Steelers are slowly but surely becoming from being one of the contenders in the NFL to being an afterthought, to being a team that probably makes the playoffs with most of this team still intact, to a team that if they lose Big Ben, they are going down a bad path. Like I said, I think Big Ben will come back next year. But with Big Ben saying that he might not come back, that means you need to address quarterback. You need to look at the future without Big Ben, regardless of if he's playing for you or not next year. And you need to make some tough decisions. Maybe even Tomlin. I don't think so. But you need to at least consider it. Steelers are still a good team. This is a team that was in the AFC Championship. But if they don't do things to right the ship, we could be talking about a bad Steelers team for years to come. But that's my thoughts on what's gone on lately with the Steelers. The Steelers are potentially screwed if Big Ben retires. So hopefully for their sake he doesn't. But again, that's my thoughts and opinions. If you enjoyed, leave a like. You can also follow me on Twitter at Anthony James TV, link in the description. And subscribe to me, Anthony James TV, for plenty of NFL videos on my channel. Doing recaps on all 32 teams, doing draft videos too. So come check out my channel. I guarantee there's videos for you to watch. You're going to like it.
Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.